Guys and girls, it's know it time!
Alright, so yesterday, or not yesterday, a few minutes ago, I've taught you how to solve by completing a square. That was easy. So today, I want to teach you, it's called working in standard form. Standard form. Okay. For the past couple of days, every time you saw standard form, a lot of you got scared and you ran away and did vertex form, which was correct, because that's the only way I taught you. You never dealt with standard form directly. Now, I'm going to show you how to do this directly. Okay? If I give you a question like this, x squared plus 7x plus 12 equals to 0. Okay? And I ask you to solve. The old you from a few minutes ago, what you would do is you would complete the square. Okay? Because you say, Mr. Snow, this is standard form. I can't work with standard form. Now, I'm going to teach you how to get standard form and work with it. Standard form is actually easier than completing the square. When you have this in standard form, this goes back to grade 10. Back in grade 10, your teacher taught you how to solve this using grade 10 technique. Starts with an F. When in doubt, F it out. F. Third letter is a C. Come on. When in doubt, factor it out. What were you thinking? So naughty kids. Factor. Oh, you're thinking same thing. So guys and gals, in this next session, you're going to do a lot of factoring. So you're going to go home tonight and start practicing your effing skills. Okay? Factoring skills. What do you think? A lot of you forgot how to factor, so I'm going to teach you how to factor. Break this up into two brackets. Okay, back in the days. And your teacher says, hey, find two numbers that multiply together to give you 12. Okay. Add together to give you 7. Robin? 3 and 4. Okay. Easy? Oh yeah, it's pretty easy. So you get x plus 3, x plus 4. This was called factoring, but I'm not done yet because my question says solve. Okay? Here's where a lot of kids get in trouble. They say, hey, Maso, this is your answer. This is not an answer. That's called factoring. Solving takes it one step further. So I'm going to say this equals to 0. If it equals to 0, what we're going to do now is, would you agree that if this bracket was 0, I can take 0 times anything, it will give me 0. So let's set this bracket to 0, because I want to see what will give me 0 here. So we're going to go x plus 3 equals to 0. Because if the first bracket is 0, it doesn't matter what the second bracket is. I will get 0. So guys, I gotta solve for x. X equals to -3. Very nice. Now, notice I said imagine the first bracket equals to 0. I also could have done something else. Risham, what could I have done? What about the second bracket? Because if one of these brackets was a 0, my answer will be a 0. So why don't we set this to 0? So you go x plus 4. And then we go x equals to -4. So there's two possible answers you can have. X equals to -3 or x equals to -4. I'm going to write a few things down. After you factor, see, I just factor. Try to set each bracket to 0. To set each bracket to 0. And solve for x. See, once I factor, I'm going to set each bracket to 0 and solve for x. Because if one of these brackets is a 0, my whole solution becomes 0. And that's what I'm looking for. Try it. Now, I could have easily done this using completing the square method. X squared plus 7x plus 12. I want you to complete the square and do this the old-fashioned way. See how much longer it takes you. Pretend I didn't teach you about factoring. I want you to go ahead and complete the square old-fashioned way. And we'll see how long it takes you. Factoring took me less than a minute. Let's see how long your method 2 takes. Method 2 was complete the square. C, T, S. I'm going to pause it. And if I were to complete the square, you should have something squared equals to 0. And I'm going to just steal one of your answers. Malika, what do you have in here? The bracket? X plus 3.5. What do you have outside the bracket? Negative 0.25. If I were to solve for x, doing exactly the same thing I just taught you before, you should get x equals to negative 3 and negative 4. So really, there's two methods to solve a question. One, factor. So I'm going to give you a bit more tricks on to solve. Two methods so far. Are there more methods? Yes, there are. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you another method. And all this is just tackles one problem. How to solve a quadratic function. Two methods of solving quadratic functions. Quadratic functions. 1. Factoring. 2. CTS. Tomorrow I'm going to show you a third method. On the exam, some of you ask me, what's the best method to use? Guys and gals, the best method is really your choice. I can't tell you what the best method is. Factoring is the easiest, but factoring, I'm going to show you some little hints. Number 1, this does not work with every question. Work with every question. That's a flaw to factoring. Factoring, it only works with some question. With every question. That's why we can't just factor. We gotta use CTS sometimes. I'm gonna give you a question. You're gonna choose a method of your choice. If factoring works, use factoring. If it doesn't work, complete the square. You choose what method you want to do. Your question is gonna be this. Nope, not the challenge yet. You're not ready for it yet. 4x squared minus 2x minus 12 equals to 0. They're going to say solve. Sorry? You can use any method you like. Yep. I'm going to pause this and let you use a method of your choice. So when I walked around, I saw most of you try to factor, but you got into slight trouble. And then I saw some of you went, maybe at 30% you said, Mr. I'm going to complete the square. Completing the square works perfectly. No issues with you there. Okay? But you can actually factor this out. I'm going to show you how. See, a lot of you probably forgot how to factor, so I'm going to go give you a quick refresher on how to factor. The first thing you should look for is this. 4, 2, and negative 12. Let's pull out a common number right now to make your life easier. 2. Okay, so let's factor out the 2. So let's go 2, because I can pull out the 2 right now. 2x squared minus x minus 6 equals to 0, see? Nothing more. Now, I'm going to look at this bracket. I'm going to ask myself, how do you factor when there's a number in front of x squared? If there's no number, all you're going to do is break it up into two brackets. Back in grade 10, I want to know, how were you taught to factor this? Go back in the old school days. Yep. Leave it there and do what? So you're going to split sum up equals to 2? No. Back in the days, how were you go back into a couple of months ago? What did you do to solve this one? 2 times -6. Then what do you do with that? -12. Then what do you do with that? You're on the right track. There's actually different techniques. Now it depends on, like, different teachers have different techniques. I'm gonna show you my favorite technique. Some of you were not taught this technique before, so we're gonna do this. If there's a number coefficient in front of x squared, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take this number, multiply with your constant, which is -6. So Divya, you're on the right track. This was -12. Okay. Now you're gonna find two numbers that multiply together to give you -12, add together to give you this number in front of x, which is a -1. -4 and 3. Let's write this down. So we're gonna go 2. See, that 2 is still there. I haven't touched that 2 yet. We're gonna break this up into 2 brackets right off the bat. We're gonna write down x minus 4, x plus 3. Now somebody's saying, Mr. No, what's the difference between this and the previous thing we did? There's a 2 in the beginning, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna take this 2 and divide this by 2 and divide this by 2. Okay, whatever number is here, we're going to divide each one of these by 2. So this is going to be divided by 2. And this is going to be divided by 2. Let's try to simplify right now. You're going to need some more practice with this, I know. So this becomes 2. Would you agree 4 over 2 just really becomes a nice number? So let's write it as x minus 2. It's very nice. No tricks. Now somebody is saying, hey, Miss Snow, 3 doesn't go into 2. So if it doesn't go into 2, we're going to take this 2, put it to the front of x. And your answer really becomes 2x, and that's how we factor. Okay. How many of you were taught this technique before? Hands up. 1, 2, 3. Good. You still remember. It's coming back. But remember, this is called factoring. I didn't ask you to factor. I asked you to solve. So continue on. Finish the last step for me, please. Because this is factoring. Solving takes it one more step. We're going to set each bracket to 0. So x minus 2 equals to 0. And 2x plus 3 equals to 0. See, this 2 doesn't really change anything. So we don't need to worry about it. We only want brackets with the x involved. Guys, gals, solve for x. X equals to 2. X equals to -3 over 2. Hey, pretty easy. But I need you to practice with factoring because I know you're weak and I know you're scared. I want you to factor this. Factor. We're going to resharpen your skill set with factoring. A. Ooh. X squared minus, come on, oh, my pen's not working. Oh, there we go. X squared minus 5x minus 14. B, all you're going to do is factor. We're not doing anything fancy. 7x plus x squared minus 18. C, 3x squared minus 5x minus 2. D, the better you are at factoring, the easier this becomes. 5x squared plus 2x minus 3. Your job is to factor. Guys, gals, I'm going to pause it. Alright, let's start with just my basic review of factoring. So remember, when you factor, what you really want is two numbers that multiply together to give you your constant, which is your lone number, which is for negative 14. Add together to give you negative 5. That's what you really want. Loveline, how would you factor this? Yep. Good. So what are my two numbers? Negative 7 and positive 2. See, this is called factoring. I stopped right there. I didn't ask you to solve. I asked you to factor. There's a difference. A lot of students get mixed up. I ask them to solve and they give me this. This is not called solving. Solving means give me an answer. Factoring means break it down into brackets. That's the difference between factoring and solving. B. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Roshan, what do you have for B? Oh, this is a tough one. It's tricky. X plus 9 and x minus 2 is correct. See, this is tricky because I kind of rewrote it, mixed things up. But the first thing you should have really done is write out properly. That becomes x squared. That becomes x squared. My pen is not working right now. Oh, I guess school's over, guys. X squared. No, you're lucky. Plus 7x minus 18. See, I keep it simple. I don't want to make it too that difficult. Here is where it gets interesting. If you have a coefficient in front of x squared, everything changes. We follow a brand new set of rules to factor. We're going to take 3. Harsh, what am I going to multiply 3 with? Negative 2. That gives me negative 6. Okay. Again, I'm keeping it simple. I'm not going to rush it. We're going to find Darren, what are two numbers that multiply together to give you negative 6, add together to give you negative 5? Negative 3 and? Negative 3 and negative 2. Let's just write this down. I'm not sure if it works. Negative 3 times negative 2 gives you positive 6. Doesn't work. I'm looking for negative 6. So, what is it? I'm blanking on names. Hang on. It's gonna be Lavraj. No, not Lavraj. Harmeet. Negative 5, negative 1. Nope. Negative 6, positive 1 is correct. Some of you will leave this for me to work with. I'm not done yet. Serena, why aren't I done with this? You gotta divide this by 3. See, I highlight this 3 for a reason. This is not my final answer. I gotta divide each one of these by 3. Now, I go ahead and I simplified one more step. Okay, Ruby, what's my final answer gonna be? X minus, yep. Oh, whoa. 3x, yep. Plus 1. See, this 1 and 3 can't be divided. So I'm going to drag this 3 to the front. And that's called how we factor. I'm going to do the same technique with the bottom one. Okay. And I'm just going to ask for an answer. Who haven't I picked onto yet? Crystal, I don't think I picked onto you. What's your answer for this one, Crystal? You're not going to get this yet? So let's do this slowly. 5 and negative 3 gives you what, Crystal? Negative 15. Let's see, you can come up. What are your two numbers right now? Let's hear it. That multiply together to give you negative 15. Add together to give you 2. X. What are the two lucky numbers? Close. Reverse it. Positive 5. Negative 3. We're not done yet. There's one more thing I didn't do. Jessica, what's the last thing I got to do? Divided by 5. See again, look, the moment you have a coefficient here, we got to divide by that coefficient. So this really becomes x plus 1. 5x minus 3. So this is a short review and introduction to factoring. Tomorrow, your quiz will be on factoring, and it will be on completing the square. Solve by completing square, and just on basic factoring. You have to be good with it by tomorrow. You may have to solve by factoring. but I'm not gonna. My focus tomorrow is on completing a square. Focus, but you have to do complete factor. Yep.
So what would the x value be in the second?
For this one? So, good question. If I were to ask you to solve, pretend this is equal to 0. So we say go x plus 1 equals to 0. 5x minus 3 equals to 0. Guys and gals, take a minute to solve for x for me, please. See, if I asked you to solve, we set each bracket to 0. So now we go x plus 1 equals 0. 5x minus 3 equals to 0. X equals to -1 is one of them. But there's one more. 5x equals to 3. X equals to 3 over 5. Because I'm just bringing this 3 over and getting x by itself. Guys and gals, your homework is what I give you before, and plus review your factoring skills. This ends our short review on factoring.